Hello everyone, welcome to the CTV News on Calabash TV and on the Wave Radio 94.5. I am Lisa Joseph. 1 week after the Ministry of External Affairs announced that information received from U.S. authorities revealed that 38 Cuban nationals reported by the Associated Press of being in possession of St. Lucian tourist visas was false, the leader of the United Workers' Party is seeking clarification on the matter. Chastanet says while there is truth to the information, there is more to the story that is not being told by the External Affairs Ministry. Mr. Chastanet says the ministry is technically correct in its argument that the Cuban nationals could not have been in possession of St. Lucian tourist visas because they do not require visas for stays up to 6 weeks. However, their passport was stamped as having entered St. Lucia. It was their last legal port for travel activity. The UWP leader believes that the government was made aware of the possible plans by the Cuban group to use St. Lucia some 2 weeks in advance of them being found in the waters of the U.S. Virgin Islands.
But there must have been something in their passports to indicate that they came from St. Lucia. And that thing was, when they arrived, their passports are stamped. So like all tourists in this country. And it could be easily interpreted that that was the visa, because that stamp has a limited period of time in which the persons could stay here. But the fact is, 38 Cubans arrived here by plane, were stamped entry. Question is, were they questioned as to why they were coming here? Did they have money? Did they give the immigration officers sufficient information? Or was a phone call made and said, can you stamp these people to come in? The people then got on a boat and joined 52 other Cubans and were trying to make it into the U.S. territories, into the Virgin Islands to get on land. They were intercepted by the Americans. The Americans sent the 52 Cubans who came from Cuba back to Cuba, but the 38 Cubans that had come through St. Lucia, Cuban protocol is that they cannot be sent back to Cuba. So they only accept back people who came directly from Cuba. So if the Cubans came from a third point of entry, in this case St. Lucia, they had to be sent back to St. Lucia. My understanding is that the government, whether it's the Prime Minister or the Minister of Foreign Affairs, approached the Cubans and begged the Cubans not to send them back here, because they felt on the heels of the Lamberg issue, they could not allow this situation to arise.
International reports are that the U.S. authorities have been monitoring a possible human smuggling ring for nearly 2 years now that includes St. Lucia as a jump-off point for Cubans wishing to migrate to the U.S. When asked whether the ministry was aware of this, the permanent secretary in the Ministry of External Affairs, Hubert Emmanuel, replied that there was no knowledge of this.
What was said at the press conference is rubbish and was intended to put everybody off what the real issue was. We all know they didn't have visas, but we want to know, did they come into St. Lucia? Were their passports stamped? Did a proper investigation take place into what they were doing here? And more importantly, information has come available to me and others that in fact that there was a third party that actually contacted the government of St. Lucia between April 8th and April 15th to indicate to them that the people were coming in specifically to do exactly what they did, which was to use St. Lucia as a transshipment point. I want confirmation whether in fact that they were informed. And if they were informed, we want to know why they did nothing about it. And the government must stop thinking that it continue this behavior of trying to attempt to cover up everything. Because what they're doing now is losing credibility internationally. And I believe many St. Lucians are now starting to see this government for exactly what they are. A bunch of deceitful liars that have no intention of being able to help the people of this country.
And as far as Chastanet is concerned, the situation speaks to a pattern of cover-up for the SLP administration, citing examples of Rochmel, Grindberg, and the recent Lambert's Academy scandal.
The government is expecting us to believe that there was nothing done wrong, that somehow an individual who came, that according to the Invest St. Lucia, accepted a general invitation to an investment conference, arrived here, was not given any extra help, that the person was able to open up a company in St. Lucia in a record time, that the Minister of Trade gave a trade license, didn't even go through the trade board, that the Ministry of Education approved an academy of which there were no teachers, There was no real curriculum. There was a 2-bedroom house that was being used to be able to do classes for over 200 students. A situation where the Ministry of Health also approved that operation, even though it is clear to the eye that there was insufficient facilities to support that. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs that gave work permits and visas for those students to come here, although it was clear on the website that there was something odd by advertising Dauphin, Groslay, North America. You have a minister who's gone public to say that after the police came to her office, she called the Minister of Security. She also called the Deputy Commissioner of Police to inquire in the case. And very shortly afterwards, 2 senior officers in charge of the investigation were gone.